Hello, everybody, and welcome to today's Standalone Spotlight session, which is all about the book Forget Me Not by Julie Soto. I'm going to come out and say it straight off the bat. This is one of the best books I have read this year. You may not be able to tell from the cover, but when I've recommended this directly to friends, the comparison I've used for it is that this book is what Taylor Swift's Back to December would be like if it was a book and not a song. And we all know how sad Back to December is. So let's have a short discussion of Forget Me Not, what it's about, why I like it, and why I think you should read it. This is a 330-page contemporary romance about a wedding planner called Amma and a florist called Elliot. In the present timeline of the book, Amma wins a bid for a massive influencer wedding. She started up her own independent wedding agency, and winning this contract is a massive deal. As she meets the influencer and her partner and starts discussing the details of their dream wedding, she finds out that one of the very few conditions is that they absolutely have to use Bloom's flowers. A florist Amma has refused to work with because the owner, Elliot Bloom, is her ex-boyfriend. Fact of the matter is, though, no one really knows that Amma and Elliot used to be paramours. They worked in the same professional sphere. They kept their relationship on the DL. So Amma really has no good reason to deny this influencer couple the chance to work with Elliot, because she would have to explain to everyone why. And she doesn't want to draw attention to the fact that she has been, quote unquote, unprofessional in her working relationships in the past. You see, Amma used to work for Whitney, a massive local wedding business owner, and Whitney had always stressed to Amma that she got far too close to the brides she was working for. She stressed to Amma that the one hurdle Amma had to overcome professionally was being unprofessional in regard to creating really intense relationships with the people working around her. You see, Amma's really friendly. And when Whitney finds out that she's been getting invited to bachelorette parties and post-wedding events, she makes it clear that Amma is stepping over a professional line and that she won't succeed in the industry unless she starts maintaining some professionalism. It goes against Amma's nature. But having been told that by Whitney over and over and over again, she has come to view herself in the same capacity, someone who gets too close to others. Amma's relationship with weddings, full stop, is also really interesting because her mother has been married 16 times. So whilst Amma may love the ceremony, the drama, the experience of weddings, she quite firmly feels that weddings and marriages are two different things, and is absolutely steadfast in her commitment to never getting married herself. And this is massively, massively influenced by her relationship with her mother, and thus her opinions of weddings as a whole. This does in fact steep into her opinions on marriage and long-term relationships in general. She simply doesn't believe that commitment in the big wedding level sense truly exists. A problem for Amma is that the moment she meets Hazel and Jacqueline, the couple that are getting married, one of them is an influencer, she can feel herself connecting with them and knows that she has to stay in tip-top form to remain professional throughout the biggest wedding of her career. It's literally going to be a career-defining moment for her if she can pull off a wedding of this scale with this budget. She opts not to disclose the fact that she and Elliot have formally been together. And she feels validated in this decision when she finds out that Jacqueline and Hazel have interviewed her to be their wedding planner and settled on her through a personal recommendation from Elliot's mother. So she has to work on this make or break wedding whilst working alongside a man she hasn't spoken to in 2 years. And the moment Amma rings Elliot's shop to coordinate an initial meeting, she asks one of her many, many former existing step-siblings to make the call on her behalf while they're together in the apartment. And the moment Elliot realizes who's on the phone, he is adamant, just pass me to Amma. Let me speak to Amma. And you don't know why she's so reluctant to speak to him on the phone. But when she does, he simply confirms a time and hangs up on her. And we see Amma burst into tears. So you know, straight from the get-go, It's gonna be messy. What I loved about this is that you got lots of chapters from Elliot's perspective, but they all mainly take place in the past, because we flash back all the way to Amma and Elliot meeting when she's still working for Whitney and Elliot's father is still alive. So they're both considered relatively junior in both of their businesses, but Amma is becoming a very successful planner in her own right. You know, Whitney's clients are requesting her specifically. She brings really creative ideas to the team. She is in every sense a rising star, but in their first encounter, Elliot sees a member of the wedding they are working on's bridal party getting aggressive with Amma. This groomsman is not taking no for an answer. As Elliot's about to go over and intervene, you know, he's arranging flowers, seeing this altercation from a distance. She smashes the guy in the face. And Elliot's thinking, good for her. But Amma is heavily reprimanded by Whitney, and Elliot hears the whole thing. He hears Whitney tell her that it's her own fault for getting too close to the bridal party as a whole, and that people do take liberties if you are too familiar in that industry, because he could see she wasn't doing anything inappropriate at all, but he is too shy or standoffish to go over. But he does go get some ice, wrap it up, and then asks his dad to take it to Amma and make sure that she is okay. So we see from Elliot's perspective, his father and Amma sitting down talking to each other as his father helps her ice her knuckles. And it's just really sweet in hindsight, because Amma's impression of her father is that he's so kind and thoughtful to come over with that ice. And Elliot never tells her that the ice came from him. He's just that cute. In the main timeline, we get to see Amma go with Hazel and Jacqueline to visit the florists she has avoided for years. It turns out she pretty much works with every other florist in the city except for Elliot. And when we see him, we find him gruff, standoffish, and she comments on how different the shop is looking because he has converted a back room into a workstation where he creates these massive installations for large-scale events like weddings, an idea that came originally from Amma. He starts talking to Jacqueline and Hazel, getting to find out what flowers they want, and he's pretty much ignoring Amma completely. And as he is talking to the girls, he's making this like mini bouquet, like a boutonniere little setup full of flowers that he thinks reflects the women in front of him. And it turns out that's something Elliot has been doing for years. And we flash back to Amma and Elliot in the florists for the first time. At this point, Amma has set her independent business up and is going around trying to make positive relationships with vendors she knows she's going to need to work with in the future. She tries ringing Elliot on the phone. He's been brushing her off, so she turns up at the florists. Happy, smiley, beautiful. And Elliot makes her a boutonniere as he tries to brush her off and send her on her way. He's thinking at the time how hilarious it is that she knows nothing of the language of flowers, because if she did, she'd be very insulted by the selection he puts together for her. And it's brilliant to see the present timeline reflected by Amma and the past timeline reflected by Elliot. You get a very good idea of how one views the other, one in the present tense, one in the past. Elliot starts discussing flower choices with Jacqueline and Hazel, and they mention wanting a particular flower in another colour. He says, oh, well, the best fit would be an amaryllis, but I don't keep them in the store anymore. Because as we find out, that's Amma's name. And you just know she's there thinking, oh, he doesn't have this flower here anymore because he doesn't want a reminder of me. He hates me that much. And you can just tell from having been inside Elliot's head for just a little bit that it's more for the fact that it hurts too much. And he can't even have the flower she's named after in his store anymore. I love him so much. Needless to say, in the present tense, the two of them are not acting simpatico. And in the past tense, Elliot is gruff and standoffish with Amma. But that stems partly from the fact that he finds her very loud and gregarious and annoying, but also incredibly, incredibly beautiful. In the present timeline, we get the hurdles, the trials, and the tribulations of Amma trying to make Hazel and Jacqueline's dream wedding come true. And you find out that she and Elliot work really well together. Their ideas start becoming more and more ambitious. And it is commented on more than once that Elliot seems incredibly tired. Amma even asks him, am I asking too much from you? Please give me pushback. And he is adamant in his refusal. We do find out why. This entire wedding is being recorded for TV, which adds an extra level of drama to the entire present timeline. And there is a scene where the production team interview Amma on camera about her business, about herself, the process of setting up a wedding. And when asked the question, why did you go into wedding planning as a career? And she answers about her mother's 16 weddings. The production team immediately start digging into that, and she panics on camera. Normally, she gives that answer and people move on, but they sense, rightly so, that there is a real story here in terms of her mother, her relationship with weddings, and it all gets nipped in the bud. It's all very awkward. Filming stops, and Amma sees Elliot out the back later on with the cameraman, getting something off of him. And you just know that he's gotten that tape to destroy it. You just know, even though in the present timeline you are following Amma and she's convinced that he hates her, that everything is just ridiculously awkward. You know from the bits of Elliot you've seen in the flashback chapters that he is a good man and he doesn't want her embarrassed at all. I love him so much. We also have an interesting moment when it comes to trying on wedding dresses, because Amma is invited along. Normally she tries to draw a line in the sand at this point between professional and friendly, but under the guise of making the TV show, she needs to be present, she needs to give opinions. And who should be there at the shop but Whitney, her former boss? Amma has already visited Whitney to ask for her advice about winning such a big contract. And while Whitney is nice to her in person, she gives Amma a list of all the vendors that she normally uses that are free that weekend. And Amma has been working her way through the list, and not a single one of them is available to work on her wedding. All claim to be working, in fact, on weddings for Whitney. And Amma starts chalking up to, maybe she gave me the wrong list. Maybe she actually ended up giving me the list of all the vendors she is using that weekend. Oh my goodness, these are all the vendors I know. I have very few other people out on the list. But Elliot comes through because he works in the industry as well, and he starts making all of these alternative suggestions. And the wedding just keeps getting better and more unique. The more hurdles are put in their way when it comes to ideating and being practical about what they can achieve with a wedding, it is acknowledged that they speak the same language. They are a great team together. So as the brides are trying out wedding dresses, she has the opportunity to confront Whitney, but doesn't. That's not the dynamic of their relationship. Whitney offers, if you need any help, it's not a bad thing to admit it, let me know. And as you're reading it, you're like, you sneaky, sneaky snake. I don't trust you. You've also heard Elliot say several times he does not think highly of Whitney at all. In the past timeline, you are getting to watch from Elliot's POV, he and Amma falling in love for the first time. He starts working on weddings that she is running. She's obviously quite stressed. She's a highly strong woman starting out her new business. Our man Elliot, of course, starts going above and beyond for Amma. Mainly because she's not frightened of asking him for help. So because for the first time ever, he kind of wants to be putting himself out there. And then at one of the weddings that she's running, she has some carved out time where she doesn't need to be anywhere. She drags him away. And this book becomes a surprisingly, pleasantly, very spicy book, as we find out that our girl Amma is incredibly assertive when it matters. And she makes it abundantly clear that she is really into Elliot. They keep hooking up at events that they're working together. And then they start seeing each other outside of those weddings. Elliot starts feeling comfortable around her. He takes her out for dinners. They start staying at each other's apartments. They are dating for months, and he falls head over heels in love with her. And you know, from the present timeline, Emma was obviously head over heels in love with him too. So what could have split my precious babies apart? Both timelines are working towards their climaxes simultaneously. So the drama ramps up, the intensity ramps up. It is brilliantly paced and plotted. As we get to Jacqueline and Hazel's wedding day, massive drama ensues. She and Elliot obviously have really ambitious plans for the wedding. They've got this big team involved. The production team are there recording everything. Emma goes off to collect a basin, which she assumes is about the size of a bucket, that one of the bride's families insists must be used. When she arrives to collect it, it is in fact an entire bathtub. She's there on her own, and we get a perfect scenario of Emma's biggest problem she needs to overcome, which is that she wants to be independent. She wants to do things herself. She wants to constantly prove herself capable. And so she tries to lift this bathtub herself, drops it, and it lands on her foot. She is laying there on the ground in absolute agony with her phone left in the car, but is lucky enough to have her Bluetooth headset logged on. Essentially runs her weddings via this Bluetooth headset. That's how she stays on the line with members of staff that are in different parts of the venues. She is an absolute girl boss. And as she's laying on the ground, regretting so many things, who calls her? Present timeline Elliot. And when he finds out that she is on her own, out God knows where, in agony, my man, oh, I love him so much. He obviously comes to her aid. And one of her stepbrothers is there. They get the bathtub where it needs to be. Elliot takes her to A&E. At this point, we are losing time on the actual wedding day. So whilst she is there at the hospital, she insists that she doesn't need to be at the hospital. And Elliot is adamant that her health comes first. She's going to be no use to anyone if she can't walk. And he leaves her with her phone. He takes the headset, gets her to tell him everything that still needs doing, what the current plans are. And he says, trust me, I won't let you down. Oh, Elliot Bloom, you couldn't let anyone down, even if you tried. So she is there at the hospital whilst things are going on with the wedding. And in the past timeline, we've gotten to the point where Emma has organised, coordinated and delivered Elliot's mum's second marriage. Elliot actually took over the florist business because his father had passed away. And so he and Emma are heavily involved in making his mum's second wedding as wonderful as possible. This is, in fact, the wedding that was so successful, it earned Emma the referral to Jacqueline and Hazel years later. They dance together at this wedding. That, up until this point, has been the biggest thing Emma has ever worked on or delivered on her own. And Elliot realizes he loves her so much. And when she tells him, as they're dancing together on the dance floor, that she loves him, his response is marry me. And this is where it all goes wrong, because Emma has been clear from the get-go that she will never marry anyone ever. And by making that request, by even just asking that question, she is confronted with this idea that they clearly want different things. Elliot wants to marry someone, he can't be with her. And she's angry. Why would he ruin this perfect, beautiful, most wonderful thing in her life? She loves him so much. Why would he do that when he knows that's not what she wants? Whereas he's just so in love with her. He asks it, and her reaction is a recoil. And she leaves. And as she's outside, calming herself down, thinking, do you know what? We could get past this maybe. She hears Elliot out in the hallway near her, He's crying, and she hates herself for having made Elliot cry. She thinks, I cannot make this man miserable. I love him too much to not give him everything he wants. I can't give him everything he wants, and I'm making him miserable. And they end. Like she's done with him. She never wants to see him again. And so her crying on the phone call when he is brusque with her, and it's the first time she's heard his voice in 2 years. You just get it, because it sounds on the phone like he hates her, and she feels like she deserves that, but that being hated by him is better than living with him and making him miserable and not giving him everything he deserves. So we have that absolute heartbreak. My precious baby Elliot, and he knows he's messed up. And she won't hear from him. She doesn't answer his calls, doesn't answer his texts. He is on the outs and he is heartbroken. Contrasted with the main timeline where Elliot is stepping up to the plate, right? He's doing this and that and getting all the things Amma needed done. One of the brides, Jacqueline, is freaking out, isn't certain she wants to get married, and that's normally a point at which Amma would go in and talk someone off of the metaphorical ledge. So Elliot goes in her stead. He's got the headphone on. He's taking Amma's advice. He's talking her down, and it just doesn't seem to be working. And Amma is sat in the hospital like, please, please, Elliot, you need to do X, Y, and Z. And he's like, do you know what, Amma? I'm going to turn off the headset now, but I'm going to keep on talking to her. Trust me. And Elliot thinks he turns off the Bluetooth in his ear, but he doesn't. And so Amma sits in the hospital. We've just had this. We've got all of the information about why they split up, and she hears what Elliot says to Jacqueline. And he says, look, we are in love with doers, people who work, and they work hard. And I'll tell you now, if you don't go through with this today, you will regret it for the rest of your life, because you don't really get second chances with women like ours. And you will spend, I'm getting all emotional again. But he says, if you leave today and you mess up, you will spend every single day for the rest of your life waiting for her to ever need you. And when the moment that opportunity comes, you have to move heaven and earth for even the possibility that she will consider loving you again, because you never stop loving her. You can't. You've gotten to the point where you want to marry this woman. That never, ever goes away. And if you don't get married today, you don't end up being together, that love never gets to leave you. You're haunted by it. You're haunted by her. And you become desperate, and your entire life becomes about waiting just for the chance to ever see her again, to be with her again. And you won't ever let her down. You'll work so hard. You just want to prove that you're worthy of her, and that even if she won't marry you, you should be together. And that's how Emma finds out that Elliot never stopped loving her, and she's obviously never stopped loving him. And the book ends, and obviously the wedding goes perfectly, but horrible Whitney turns up and tries to step in and blag that, in front of all the cameras, blag that she's had to step in. Emma's too inexperienced. She'll sort X and Y problem out that have cropped up that Elliot's already been addressing. And Emma arrives, right, and she knows that her Elliot is there and that he still loves her and she might still have a chance to be with him. And she tears Whitney a new one, and it's all caught on camera and it gets memed. It is this epic girl boss moment. And then they're at this really romantic wedding that they've made together, and she has to let him know, amongst all of the celebration and the drama and the romance, that she heard him and that she still loves him. and that she's missed him every day, and that they've both been sad and lonely without each other, and that they're obviously meant to be together, and will he please give her another chance because she doesn't deserve him. They all live happily ever after. And it's a running joke in the epilogue bit that she asks him almost every day if he's going to ask her to marry him again. And my precious babies, they live happily ever after. And the bit where it's rough and you know that she heard him crying and that's why she never went back to him, and you know what he tells Hazel, it's just like them singing back to December. There's loads that I've missed out. There's way more to this. You need to read the book. Elliot has all these tattoos of really rare plants. And he's gotten a new one. And at the end of the book, she wants to know what the new one is. And the whole reason he gets these plants is because he's never going to get the chance to see them in real life. He's got Amaryllis because he thinks he's never going to get the chance to see her again. Oh, it's perfect. So yes, that's what happens in Forget Me Not. It's really, really good. You should definitely read this book. If it doesn't make you cry, you're an awful trash bag of a human being. It's brilliant. I'm not joking when I say it's one of the best books I've read this year. It's a perfect romance novel. There's so much love and so much pain in here that you get the whole gamut. You run a gauntlet of emotions and you come out at the end so happy. So yes, that's the note we're going to end on. This has been a standalone spotlight about Forget Me Not by Julie Soto, a book you absolutely have to read. I hope you've enjoyed this video. I mean, even though I've had a little bit of a grizzle, I have enjoyed talking about this book with you. If you're still watching at this point, please give the video a like. Comment your thoughts. Are you going to give this book a read now? Have you read it already and agree with me that it's the best thing since sliced bread? As a little hinty hint, I got my copy from the works in the 3 for £6 deal. £2 for one of the best books of the year. I'm really not hearing many good excuses for not getting yourself a copy and reading this as soon as possible. And as always, please subscribe to my channel. I don't have many subscribers, so it would be great if you'd give that little button a click. I have been Christy Clogs, and I will see you all later, alligators.